Hi, this is Lori, and this is my homework for Paul McWhorter's Pico W course. This homework is for lesson 20, where we're using a DHT11 temperature and humidity sensor. In this homework, Paul asked us to hook up the sensor and have it print the temperature and humidity to the shell, and then add a button to a push button to our project. And when we press the button, we will switch the temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. My first step in doing this homework was to do the coding that Paul showed us in the course, just to get the sensor up and running. And like other students, I was having trouble. I was getting a timeout error when I was trying to use this sensor from the Sunfounder kit. I found that if I used the sensor that has a breakout board on it, this one here, I could use the code that Paul was demonstrating to us in lesson 20, but I could never get this one to work. So it's kind of funny that some people could get it to work and some people couldn't. So one of the students shared some code that they used to try and accept approach to getting the reading, and that also worked for me, although it's a little touchy and sometimes it doesn't quite 100% of the time work. So if you're trying something and you're having this error, go ahead and try the approach that Rob put out there, and I'll just demonstrate it here too. So setting everything up, the pin as a pull down with an output, and then the sensor here with the library, and I have the fix commented out in just the code the way that Paul had us do it. And so let's just watch that run, and you can see the error that I would get, the timeout error. All right, so let's go ahead and put this code back in, and we'll take that reading out, and we'll go ahead and run this one. And there we go. And you can see now I get results from that. So that worked for me. And then I guess the last thing I just point out is I also am starting to use F-strings. I've done a deep dive into formatting of output, and so I am using F-strings to do my output to the screen. And I would encourage those of you over time to take a look at the different ways you can do formatting output, because it can be tricky, and you can see all kinds of different ways that people do it. And I took a deep dive into this about a week ago, and I'll share a video that I put together discussing all the different ways you can format output in MicroPython. And so if that's been bothering you, or you want to get that straight, you might find that video helpful. Here's the code I used to do the homework and add the button to our project that'll switch between degrees C and degrees F. Pretty much the same setup as before, except for I'm going to use interrupt functions to handle my button presses. So similar setup here. Then we'll set up the button with the pull-up resistor, and I'll create a variable called scale underbar toggle. Set that to true. I'll use that variable to determine whether I should report the results in degrees C or degrees F. And then I need a variable to debounce the button in my interrupt function. Set that initially to 0. This is the interrupt function that'll run when I press the button. Call it scale handler, connected to the scale button. And in this we'll have two global variables, so we can use them both in the main program and inside this function. Then this piece of code here just makes sure that we're debouncing the button, that we're not letting random bits of voltage indicate a button press. So that's what this little piece does. And if we get a real press, then we will switch the scale underbar toggle to the opposite. So if it's true, it'll be false, and if it's false, it'll be true. And then we'll reset the debounce time for the button. Then we'll initialize the interrupt request, and the trigger will be the button being released and rising back. And we'll use the scale handler function when that happens. In the while true loop, we'll use the try and accept to get a good reading from our sensor. And all of that's pretty much the same. So read that, set up the temperature and humidity. If the scale toggle variable is true, then we'll use degrees C to do the output. And if it's false, then we'll calculate what we need for Fahrenheit, and we'll print that to the screen. So let's go ahead and see it run. There we go. So it's now in degrees C. So let's press it. And we switch to Fahrenheit. And we'll press it again. And we switch to Celsius. Oh, working pretty good. Homework done. Thanks for watching.